These are the 9 most perfect watches in my opinion. But wait, let's also talk about there are more affordable alternatives. The 9 most perfect luxury watches that redefine style, craftsmanship, exclusivity, and so on and so forth. They're not just watches that I'm going to talk about, these are icons. The first watch I'm going to start with, it is the Rolex Submariner Steel. Around since 1954, 70 years this thing has been around. It is the most recognizable brand. It is the flexiest brand. They call it the first money watch. And when you think of a first money watch, not only do you think Rolex, most of the time you will think Submariner. For the most part, this is a watch that actually kind of looked the same in all of its 70 years, which to me makes it probably one of the most successful timepieces, period. A nice Submariner today will set you over 10 grand. It's also on that unobtainium list. You're gonna have to get on the wait list to get it from Rolex, et cetera, et cetera. So odds are you're gonna go to the secondary to buy them. But there are alternatives, and that alternative is the other Rolex, and that is the Tudor Black Bay. Now the Tudor Black Bay, which is priced around $3,500, is indeed a very nice alternative. Now if you asked me about Tudor 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I would tell you, well, that's a load of crap. Well, today Tudor is a whole different company. Quality is on par with Rolex. The designs are amazing. It's a brand that stands on its own with its own marketing, with its own manufacturer. Everything about Tudor has become a standalone brand. It has created its own following where people don't want to buy Rolex. They actually specifically want to buy a Tudor, and not for reasons that it's cheaper. Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. To tell you right now, I am definitely biased. Why specifically the Royal Oak? Well, Royal Oak was designed by my favorite watch designer. To me, he is one of the most iconic watch designers that has ever lived. Gerald Genta, 1972. And the fact that this was the first of its kind. It was the first sports luxury watch at a time where stainless steel was not synonymous with luxury watches. Stainless steel was synonymous with the fact that this is just a tool. Because remember, for the longest time, these things were tools. And when Gerald Genta came out with that design, there were a lot of mixed emotions saying, oh my God, why am I paying so much for a stainless steel watch? How is this a luxury watch? But it was also a watch that looked like no other, upon which many other brands followed suit, started creating these luxury steel watches. A lot of them actually look like the Royal Oak. Last but not least, I feel that the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak is the greatest blank canvas when it comes to the watch industry. What's an alternative? Because Royal Oaks can get expensive. I mean, to get into a plain Jane Royal Oak automatic, you're looking at $30,000 plus. If you want to get into the original version, the 5402A serial, you're looking around $100,000, right? But there are alternatives. And the Zenith Defy Skyline watch is the one that I picked because you're getting a similar look. You're getting a company that has just as much history, just as much quality. Aesthetics are similar to that of the Royal Oak, and the price is only around $5,000. Now the Rolex Daytona, there's not much that needs to be said. It's the ultimate sports watch. 10 people were given a choice, hey, which chronograph do you want? 9 out of 10 will most likely pick the Daytona. It doesn't sound like such a big deal in terms of it always trading over list. Think about it. It wasn't up until the COVID hype where other Rolexes started trading over list. In fact, the only other Rolex that started trading over list was before the COVID hype. It was when they came out with the stainless steel Sky Dweller. And I said, finally, are we going to have a watch outside of the Daytona that's going to trade over list? And lo and behold, it was. But then the COVID hype kicked in, and pretty much every stainless steel Rolex is trading over list. So the Rolex Daytona is the one that stood the test of time for many years. You easily put this in the list of top 10 most iconic watches out there. While today's prices are way over retail, you're picking up these Daytonas in the mid-20s, depending on color dial, age, et cetera, there are cheaper alternatives. And I had a really hard time because I want to go first and foremost to the Zenith Chronomaster Sport, known as the Zaytona. That houses the El Primera chronograph movement that Daytona used to use, right? Those things are priced at around $6,500, but there's also the Tudor chrono, right? That Tudor chrono has lots of similarities to some of the older Daytonas, also priced around that $6,000 price range. So you guys be the judge and comment below what you think the best alternative is to the Daytona. Another Gerald Genta classic, right? Of course, I'm talking about the Nautilus. Again, another of those watches where the family reached out to Gerald Genta, said, hey, we want a sports luxury watch. Kind of Alexa, what you did for AP. And we love our boats. And guess what? The Nautilus was born. Now, while the Nautilus is not too similar to the Royal Oak, the concept is the same. It's a sports luxury watch. And when Patek Philippe said, well, wait a minute, public didn't take too well to a stainless steel sports luxury watch. Now we're seeing it's catching on. We want one too. How do we want it? Well, we wanted to have a nautical theme. Gerald Genta looked at the porthole of a boat and said, oh, this is what I'm gonna make it look like. While Genta designs seem to be pretty simplistic in a sense that it's really not that complex of a design. You don't have, the sort of step cases, engravings. You don't have, too oddball of a shape. He's still sticking to more or less a round shape. That's what often makes designers so iconic. Well, they can take something so simple and make it iconic, make it the greatest blank canvas. I think the Nautilus is probably the second greatest blank canvas. Again, I'm a bit biased. AP happens to be my favorite brand. Because Nautiluses will set you back. You're looking at the six-figure range and up, depending on complication, depending on metals, etc. Now, what are some of the alternatives? Go to Girard-Perregaux Lariato. Now, Girard-Perregaux Lariato, you're gonna say, oh, that's just a copy of the Nautilus. Well, for those of you guys that didn't know, the Lariato was actually designed in 1975. Is it the Nautilus that looks like the Lariato? Or is it the Lariato that looks like the Nautilus? Or is it the Lariato that looks like Royal Oak? No, it's Girard-Perregaux doing what they do and also entering the market of stainless steel sports watches back in 1976. They're in that $10,000 to $15,000 price range, depending on, again, year, variations, etc. Cartier Santos, probably the hardest watch to find an alternative to, right? Santos is just so Santos, right? Again, top 10 most iconic timepieces out there in my book. For obvious reasons. This was the one watch that broke the sentiment that wristwatches are for ladies. Remember, the first wristwatch ever made was the Queen of Naples by Breguet. And this is a watch that's been around over 100 years. This is a watch that's instantly recognizable. I'll put it right up there with the Rolex Submariner. If you have a Santos on your wrist, odds are watch people will know where it is, non-watch people will know where it is. So finding an alternative for it outside of the Cubitus that came out this year, that's really not a whole lot of things out there that could serve as a good alternative to a Cartier Santos. So I went with something a bit more surprising. I went with the Casio digital timepieces like the A158 simply because of its shape that closely resembles that of a Cartier Santos. Maybe this is a bad one. Maybe you guys can comment below and give me some better alternative. Again, don't use the Cubitus. I'd be happy to hear your opinion on that. The one I came up with was the Casio. 5970 Patek Philippe. Now, Patek Philippe has been synonymous with creating perpetual calendars. It's sort of like the first modernized, nice size, I would say, perpetual calendar chronograph. To me, it's been the perfect size, aesthetically a gorgeous watch, classic layout of a perpetual on the dial. I prefer that watch in platinum personally, which is like sort of unobtainium. They made very, very few of them. Now, these are watches that are trading anywhere from $200,000 to $300,000, depending again on condition, metal, etc. What are my alternatives? Well, you've got to start looking at alternatives that are going to give you the same functionality. I tend to look at a company called Jaeger-LeCoultre. So the reference number Q114842J. Jaeger is the watchmaker's watchmaker. 80% of Jaeger's business was making movements for other companies. And because they're able to make all their stuff in-house, because they're able to produce all this stuff and they had the process in place and were able to sell to others, they can make their own and it's a lot cheaper. Retail pricing is not in the same echelon as that of Patek Philippe. Rightfully so, Patek Philippe is the Rolls Royce of all watches. And their perpetual calendar is $28,000. So you're getting the same complications, same functionality, same history. If you simply Google what older watches were powered by a Jaeger movement, you'll get a slew of watches and some of them you'll be surprised by. Breguet is next on my list. I decided to go with a sportier tourbillon, with the Marine tourbillon because it's a sporty watch. Also platinum, it's very heavy, so you feel the watch on the wrist. I like that. In my opinion, if it's a first tourbillon, it should very well be a Breguet. Of course, they do get pricey. They get up there in price. Breguet is not a cheap brand, but there are alternatives. This alternative actually comes from a company that has just as much innovation, history, etc. In fact, they've done more innovation for the world of horology than Breguet did in the past. The brand I'm talking about is Ulysse Nardin. Marine tourbillon watch, which is only priced at around $25,000, is an excellent alternative to that of the Breguet Marine tourbillon for many reasons. Things like silicium technologies, all the constant escapes alongside with watches that we've never seen before, like the Freak, if you will, right? And they're priced a lot cheaper for, well, the main reason is really because they have a complete manufacture in-house. Everything they do is done in-house. I've been to the factory, I've seen it from A to Z, which means that they're not outsourcing a whole lot of things. Certainly an iconic brand, the quality is there, the horology is there, the innovation is there, it's all there for you, making it a great alternative to the Breguet Marine tourbillon. Richard Mille, RM1103. Richard Mille took the world by storm a little over 20 years ago as an independent watchmaker that people in the beginning kind of laughed at because who the hell is this guy coming out with all these watches at such ridiculous prices? And I'm not talking about today's prices, I'm talking about prices that go back 20 plus years when we first started, where a plain Jane watch was like $50,000, $60,000. It is unfortunately that throughout times we got away from the fact that Richard Mille is a powerful horological house and some of the stuff that they make are horological wonders till this day. Well, if you know that you're producing a watch that is sitting on somebody's wrist and anybody that looks at that wrist knows that, A, that's 6 figures plus no matter what, you're obviously gonna fall into that flex category. But as far as innovation and use of materials, as far as horological innovations, along with the world's thinnest watch until Chaikin came along just recently. A lot of things out there that I can talk about Richard Mille. But no matter what I sit here and tell you, no matter what I tell you about them being horologically advanced, material advanced, marketing advanced, and all those things, the first thing that's going to come to your mind is dollar signs and flex, and rightfully so. Now, finding an alternative for Richard Mille, so Hublot Spirit of Big Bang, the reason I picked that is because, again, it's one of the few large sports watches out there that would mimic the shape and the size of the Richard Mille RM11, but it also has so many variations. This is what Hublot is known for. I know the world tends to go crazy when you hear, oh my God, Hublot is this and Hublot is that, because that's a brand that people love to talk most shit about out there, right? And I've said it for many years that I'm a fan of Hublot. We sell a lot of Hublot. I think they make aesthetically a lot of beautiful pieces. And you're picking those up around the $20,000 price range, where a Richard Mille RM11 is more than 10x that. So there's your alternative for that. Last but not least, I had to throw an independent out there. The one independent that took the world by storm, brought up the popularity of all other independents around, is Mr. Francois Paul Journe. I mean, obviously, if I had to pick one for myself, it would be the Tourbillon. This is what put him on a map. And when it comes to alternatives, I want to leave that up to you guys, because for those of you that are into independent watches, for those of you that think there is an alternative for an FP Journe watch, I want you to comment below and let me know what you think those alternatives are. I want to thank you for tuning in. As always, I always ask to like, comment, share this with your friends that you think may enjoy this content to help my channel grow, and I'll see you in the next one.